The galaxy was silent, save for the distant hum of stars. For centuries, alien civilizations had dominated the stars, shaping entire systems with technology so advanced it seemed like magic. Among these, the Heliarch Empire reigned supreme, their fleets unchallenged, their influence unbroken. Humanity, confined to a small blue planet on the edge of a forgotten arm of the Milky Way, was little more than a curiosity, a primitive species barely spacefaring, with flickering sparks of intelligence that barely touched the stars. Yet they had arrived. The Heliarch scouts first reported a single human vessel leaving Earth's orbit. At first, it was dismissed as an anomaly, a fragile craft destined to fail. "They cannot survive the vacuum beyond their planet," said Admiral Zorvak, the Heliarch commander overseeing the quadrant. His voice echoed across the bridge of the command flagship, Ecliptor, as holograms displayed the small, silver human ship. "Their engines are primitive. Their weapons laughable. This is amusement." But amusement turned to concern when the vessel reached the moon of Trisona, a mining colony under Heliarch protection. Their human scientists, dressed in ragged space suits, dismantled alien surveillance equipment, repurposing it into something unknown. Within hours, they had reprogrammed drones, learned alien mechanics, and neutralized the Heliarch defense force stationed on the moon, without firing a single shot. "This is unexpected," muttered Commander Veltra, her tendrils trembling. "They adapt. Rapidly. Faster than any species we've encountered." Admiral Zorvak's amber eyes narrowed. "They are clever, yes. But they are fragile. Observe. Prepare a strike. Humanity will die before it learns to fight." The humans, aboard their makeshift flagship, Dauntless, had no illusions about the danger. Captain Elias Carter, a man whose presence commanded attention, paced the bridge. Around him, officers monitored star charts, communication logs, and alien scanning arrays. "They underestimate us," he said quietly. "That's their mistake. We survive by thinking differently, by bending the rules, and by refusing to die quietly." The crew, a mix of Earth's finest minds and daring warriors, nodded. This was humanity at its core, resilient, adaptive, and unwilling to surrender. A transmission crackled across the void. The Heliarch, in all their arrogance, demanded surrender. Their words were cold, precise, designed to intimidate. "Primitive humans," their voice hissed, "lay down your arms. Accept your extinction. Resistance is illogical." Captain Carter leaned forward, fingers resting on the console. "We don't negotiate with fear. We respond with reason and action." His voice was calm, but it carried a weight that made his crew straighten with pride. Minutes later, the first Heliarch attack fleet arrived. Massive, gleaming warships, each bristling with energy cannons and gravity disruptors, surrounded the tiny human vessel. The odds were impossible, 12 ships against 1. Every species in the quadrant would have predicted humanity's annihilation. Every species except the humans themselves. The humans moved with precision. Using improvised wormhole technology salvaged from their initial encounters, they teleported behind the Heliarch formation. Their weapons, crafted from scavenged alien tech and Earth ingenuity, fired in rapid succession. Energy beams struck alien hulls in patterns no Heliarch officer could anticipate. Several warships exploded in shockwaves of light and fire. Admiral Zorvak, observing from Ecliptor, staggered. "Impossible," he whispered. They predict our moves. They fight differently." From the Dauntless, Lieutenant Mara Singh, the communications officer, intercepted the Heliarch fleet's command signals. "They don't expect unconventional tactics," she said. "We can keep this up, if we exploit their assumptions." Carter's lips curled into a faint smile. "Exactly. Humans don't follow patterns. We invent them, we break them, and we survive in ways no one anticipates." The battle reached its climax as the Dauntless maneuvered into the shadow of Trisona's asteroid belt. Using gravitational distortions, they pulled the larger alien ships into collisions with each other. One by one, the Heliarch vessels erupted in fire, a testament to human cunning over brute force. As silence returned to the void, the human crew stared at the wreckage of the fleet. They were outnumbered, yes, but victorious. Their eyes shone not with triumph alone, but with the knowledge that this was only the beginning. Back on Ecliptor, Admiral Zorvak's amber gaze burned with disbelief and fury. "They cannot be contained," he muttered. "They are a threat unlike any we have faced. Every species underestimated them. Every species will pay for that arrogance." Carter, on the Dauntless, transmitted a simple message to the galaxy: "We are here, and we are not your prey." The galaxy had underestimated humanity, and the consequences of that mistake were only beginning to unfold. The victory at Trisona reverberated across the quadrant, sending shockwaves through the Heliarch Empire. For the first time in centuries, a species they considered primitive had not only survived but shattered their expectations. Across their gilded halls, Heliarch politicians, admirals, and scholars gathered in panic, whispering in fear of a single word: human. "They are unpredictable," muttered Counselor Viral, her crystalline appendages trembling. "No species has ever countered our tactics without incurring catastrophic losses. How do they think, these humans?" Admiral Zorvok's amber eyes burned with a cold fire. "They adapt. They learn. They exploit our arrogance. We cannot fight them as we do other species. Every assumption must be questioned. Every tactic reconsidered. They are a threat to the Empire itself." Meanwhile, across the void, Captain Elias Carter convened his leadership council aboard the Dauntless. The crew, an eclectic mix of engineers, tacticians, and warriors, pored over intercepted Heliarch communications. Earth had prepared for decades in secret, building technologies and strategies the galaxy could not imagine. But even so, the human command knew the danger was far from over. "Trisona was a message," Carter began, eyes sweeping over the room. "The galaxy thinks we are fragile, primitive, expendable. But the truth is we survive where others fail. We fight when all hope is lost. And we think when others panic. Every victory we take is a lesson the rest of the galaxy will never forget." Lieutenant Mara Singh, her eyes sharp behind the display of alien signals, nodded. "We've observed their command networks. They rely heavily on pattern recognition and hierarchical obedience. They never anticipate irregular tactics. That's our advantage." Carter's hand hovered over the holomap of the quadrant. "Then we strike again, but differently. Not with brute force. With strategy, misdirection, and precision. The galaxy will learn that humans are not prey. They are predators in our own right." The humans' next move was subtle, surgical. They infiltrated Helivar, a major supply hub for the Heliarch fleets. Using modified drones that mimicked Heliarch sensor codes, human engineers bypassed planetary defenses. Once inside, they deployed electromagnetic pulse devices, disabling power grids, weapon systems, and communication arrays. Within hours, Helivar was in chaos. The Heliarch, confident in their control, had been blindsided by a species they had assumed harmless. On Helivar, Admiral Zorvok roared into his communicator, fury echoing like thunder across the void. "This is unacceptable. How do they achieve this?" Counselor Viral's voice was icy. "Do not underestimate them again, Zorvok. Every move, every calculation must now assume they are superior. Humanity is evolving faster than we can track." For the humans, the chaos on Helivar was only the beginning. Captain Carter knew the galaxy would attempt to retaliate, and he prepared contingencies for every eventuality. Human ingenuity was not limited to weapons or technology. It thrived in strategy, psychology, and unpredictability. "Prepare the fleet for diversionary tactics," Carter instructed. "We'll create illusions of attacks across 5 sectors simultaneously. The Heliarch will scatter their forces, overextend, and underestimate where we truly strike." The humans executed their plan with surgical perfection. Heliarch fleets were lured into false battles, only to find themselves ambushed by unseen forces. Human ships employed quantum cloaking, misdirection arrays, and improvised wormhole jumps, striking before the enemy could react. One by one, Heliarch vessels fell, not to superior firepower but to superior thinking. Alien commentators across the quadrant began whispering in fear. "They fight differently, too intelligently, too fast. It is not strength. It is cunning. Human cunning. We cannot predict them. We cannot contain them." On a distant conference station, multiple alien species, some allies of the Heliarch, some neutral observers, argued in panic. "The humans defy every expectation," one diplomat hissed. "They are fragile, and yet unstoppable." Even within the Heliarch Empire, cracks appeared. Some officials advocated diplomacy, fearing that continued attacks would lead to a war they could not win. Others called for total extermination. But Zorvok, burning with both shame and obsession, pushed for a campaign of annihilation, ignoring that every attempt to destroy the humans only taught them new strategies, honed their tactics, and spread fear of their unstoppable resolve. The humans did more than win battles, they became legends. Stories of a single ship outmaneuvering entire fleets, of humans adapting alien technology in hours that took Heliarch scientists decades, spread across the stars. And with every tale, humans grew bolder, their presence more intimidating. Yet, Captain Carter remained cautious. Victory is not just destruction, he reminded his officers. It is survival, adaptation, and foresight. The galaxy is vast. The Heliarch are cunning. We must always stay one step ahead. Mara Singh studied incoming messages from distant sectors. We've intercepted a council call, she said. The Heliarch are calling all major species to discuss a coalition. They want to stop us before we become unstoppable. Carter's jaw tightened. Then we show them what being unstoppable really looks like. The stage was set for a galaxy-wide confrontation. Humans had proven their intelligence, cunning, and adaptability. They had shattered assumptions, outsmarted superior fleets, and forced the greatest empire in the galaxy to reconsider everything it thought it knew about life. But even as humans celebrated, they knew the war was far from over. Somewhere in the shadows of the galaxy, the Heliarch and their allies plotted. And humanity, for all its brilliance, would need to confront them, not just with weapons but with strategy, courage, and the terrifying ingenuity that had already begun to redefine the balance of power in the stars. For the first time in eons, the galaxy had a reason to fear one small, blue planet, and the humans who called it home. The galaxy shivered. Word of humanity's audacious victories spread like wildfire through star systems. From the glimmering crystal palaces of the Valorians to the molten fortresses of the Crother, whispers filled council chambers. They survive against impossible odds. They adapt faster than logic allows. They are not like us. For the Heliarch Empire, the humiliation of Helivar was still fresh, and their outrage burned hotter than any star. Admiral Zorvok convened an emergency council aboard Ecliptor, the flagship massive enough to eclipse the moons of the inner systems. Around him sat the leaders of allied species, each a master of war in their own right. Grand Warlord Kreth of the Crother, whose bioplated dreadnoughts had crushed hundreds of civilizations. Diplomat Vera of the Valorians, whose psychic network monitored communication across entire star clusters. Chancellor Drovan of the Scythery, whose fleet's photon cannons could annihilate planets from orbit. The humans are an anomaly, Zorvok began, his voice rumbling through the chamber. They think differently. They fight differently. They survive where others die. If we do not act now, they will not just challenge our fleets, they will rewrite the rules of the galaxy. Vera's translucent form flickered with agitation. Our spies report human vessels moving faster than our calculations predict. They cloak themselves, teleport through wormholes, and strike with precision we cannot anticipate. If this continues, the balance of power is at risk. Kreth slammed his massive clawed hand on the table. Enough. We must annihilate them. Burn their homeworld. Crush their fleets. Leave nothing alive. Zorvok's amber eyes burned. Patience. First, we unite the galaxy. A coalition of our forces, coordinated, must strike where they are weakest. Then we will erase the threat. On the human side, Captain Elias Carter had anticipated this. In the dauntless command room, he stood before his council, eyes scanning the holographic display of Heliarch fleets converging across multiple sectors. They're forming a coalition, Mara Singh said, her fingers dancing across the interface. Valorians, Crother, Scythery, every major power afraid of us is mobilizing. They've learned that our unpredictability can't be ignored. Carter's gaze hardened. Then we give them a lesson in underestimation. They think sheer numbers will win. They think technology alone determines victory. They are wrong. Humanity thrives in chaos. We adapt. We exploit mistakes. And we fight when all odds are stacked against us. Lieutenant Rafe Holden, tactical officer, leaned forward. We can't fight all of them head-on. We need misdirection. We need psychological warfare. If we can split their fleets, force them to distrust each other, we can turn their strength into weakness. Carter nodded. Exactly. We won't just survive this. We will turn it into proof that no force in the galaxy can match the human mind. The humans struck first, but not with weapons. Across the quadrant, alien worlds reported false attacks, human ships appearing in multiple sectors simultaneously. Using holographic decoys, quantum cloaking, and wormhole jumps, humans forced coalition fleets to scatter. At the same time, Mara Singh's team infiltrated communication networks, sending false orders, sowing mistrust between the allies. On the Heliarch flagship Ecliptor, Admiral Zorvok roared in frustration. Why are they everywhere and nowhere? Why do our allies question each other's movements? Chancellor Drovan's voice crackled through the communicator, icy with suspicion. Vera Kreth, what have you done? I cannot trust your fleets. Vera's psychic tendrils pulsed defensively. You dare blame me? The humans are the cause. We have been manipulated. Kreth slammed his fists again. Humans? They are ghosts. How can such puny beings command this much chaos? The cracks in the coalition grew just as the humans intended. Carter's plan worked flawlessly. By the time the Allies realized the deception, entire fleets were isolated and ambushed. Human ships struck from directions no one predicted, targeting supply lines, command ships, and key systems. The coalition's technological superiority counted for little against humans who used creativity, cunning, and relentless adaptability. Meanwhile, Captain Carter faced another challenge: human morale. The victories were exhilarating, but fatigue and fear lingered. Every officer, every engineer, every soldier knew that even brilliance could not fully shield them from extinction. Carter walked the corridors of the Dauntless, speaking with each team, reminding them of what humanity had always achieved: survival against impossible odds. Remember, he said to a group of young pilots, every species underestimated us. Every enemy assumed weakness. We have one advantage they cannot understand. We refuse to accept limits. We survive. We adapt. We outthink. We win because we are human. The words were more than morale, they were strategy. The galaxy had never encountered a species whose greatest weapon was ingenuity itself. The climax of Part 3 came in the Battle of Signer Prime, a mining planet at the heart of a contested sector. Coalition fleets converged, believing they could crush humanity in a single decisive strike. Human forces, however, had already hidden in the planet's vast asteroid fields, masking the size and strength of their fleet. When the coalition struck, the humans unleashed a coordinated ambush. Quantum torpedoes disabled flagship engines. Cloaked fighters tore through supply chains. Human tacticians predicted every move, countering every formation. One by one, coalition ships fell, caught in traps designed to maximize confusion and destruction. Amid the chaos, Carter transmitted a single message: we are not prey. We are not weak. We are human. And every time you underestimate us, you make the same mistake, again. Across the quadrant, alien species recorded the battle, stunned. Humanity was no longer primitive. Humanity was apex, not through sheer force but through cunning, strategy, and an unstoppable will to survive. As the smoke of Signer Prime cleared, the human fleet limped from the battlefield, victorious but wary. Captain Carter stared at the holographic map of the quadrant, noting every remaining coalition force. They will regroup, he said. They will try again. But now they know something they cannot unlearn. Humans are not just clever. We are unstoppable when cornered. And the galaxy will never forget that lesson. Somewhere in the heart of the Heliarch Empire, Admiral Zorvok clenched his fists. They are monsters. Every species underestimated them. Every species will pay for their arrogance. And I will find a way to break them, or die trying. But the humans had set the tone. The galaxy was theirs, not by fear, not by strength alone, but by something far more terrifying to the stars: human brilliance, cunning, and unyielding will. The galaxy had changed. The coalition had been humiliated at Signer Prime, but humanity was not blind to the danger. Captain Elias Carter knew the Heliarch and their allies would regroup, stronger and more determined than ever. The humans' victories had made them both feared and hated, and every major power in the quadrant began to take notice. Intelligence reports suggest several systems are preparing to retaliate, Lieutenant Mara Singh said, her eyes scanning multiple star charts projected across the Dauntless Bridge. The Heliarch are coordinating with mercenary fleets and warlords we didn't even know existed. If they unite, they could overwhelm us in numbers alone. Carter's jaw tightened. Then we make sure that never happens. Humanity survives because we anticipate threats before they arrive. We strike before the enemy even realizes what's coming. Prepare the fleet. We move tonight. The humans' next mission was audacious. They aimed not just to defend but to expand influence. The Free Systems Accord, a coalition of neutral planets tired of Heliarch oppression, had sent envoys requesting human protection. Carter saw opportunity. With strategic alliances, humans could reshape the galaxy, not through conquest but through reputation, ingenuity, and fear of their unmatched adaptability. On Valor Prime, a crystalline planet shimmering like a diamond, human diplomats landed for the first time. The Valorians, once allied with the Heliarch, now approached humanity cautiously, aware that their assumptions about humans had been shattered. Ambassador Nyla Hart, a diplomat known for her sharp mind and calm presence, greeted the Council of Elders. "We do not come seeking war," she began. "We come offering alliance, knowledge, and the certainty that cooperation with humanity ensures survival in a galaxy that underestimates you at your peril." The Valorians exchanged uncertain glances. Counselor Vera, whose psychic tendrils shimmered with cautious energy, asked, "And why should we trust a species we have considered primitive for eons?" Hart's eyes gleamed with quiet confidence. "Because you have seen what happens when you underestimate us. We adapt. We survive. We outthink. And those who stand against us, fail. Align with humans now or face the consequences later." By the end of the council, the Valorians had agreed to supply intelligence networks, ships, and advanced technology, all willingly, knowing humanity was now the dominant mind in the quadrant. While diplomacy flourished, the war continued. The Heliarch Empire, enraged and humiliated, launched a counterattack on multiple human positions, aiming to crush their influence before alliances could solidify. Massive fleets streamed through warp corridors, their combined firepower dwarfing anything humans had previously faced. "Admiral Zorvak is not just angry," Mara Singh said as she monitored incoming transmissions. "He's obsessed. Every strike we predicted, every ambush we planned, it's all a test. He's pushing harder than before." Carter's response was simple but deadly. "Then we push back harder. Not with blind firepower but with human strategy. We turn their obsession against them." The Battle of Solera V was a testament to human ingenuity. The planet, rich with natural gravity wells and asteroid belts, became a trap. Human ships, small but hyper-adaptable, lured the Heliarch fleet into complex formations. Gravity-based torpedoes, quantum cloaking maneuvers, and feints turned what seemed like a hopeless battle into a devastating victory. When the last Heliarch cruiser exploded, Mara Singh tapped the comm panel. "They're starting to panic. Their formations are breaking down. They can't predict us. They can't contain us." Carter smiled grimly. "Humans never needed to be predictable. We survive because we think differently." The victory, however, came at a cost. Several human ships were damaged, crews fatigued, and morale strained under the constant pressure of fighting vastly superior forces. For the first time, Carter allowed himself a moment of doubt. In a quiet chamber aboard the Dauntless, he confided in his second-in-command, Commander Juno Lee. "We've won countless battles, Juno. But every time we do, the galaxy learns from us, adapts. How long until they find a way to counter our methods?" Lee's eyes were firm, unwavering. "Then we evolve faster. Humans survive because we do what no one else can: think, adapt, innovate. Every challenge makes us stronger, smarter. They've only just begun to see what happens when you corner a species unwilling to surrender." Meanwhile, across the galaxy, the Heliarch Empire began experiencing cracks within its own ranks. Allied species, disillusioned by repeated failures and impressed by human brilliance, started questioning their loyalty. Some quietly reached out to human envoys, seeking safe harbor or protection. Others plotted coups, hoping to leverage humanity's rising reputation for their own gain. Admiral Zorvak, furious but aware of the shifting tides, realized the war could no longer be fought conventionally. "Humanity has turned the galaxy against us," he admitted in a rare moment of reflection. "They do not merely fight, they inspire fear, doubt, and obedience in those we command. Every calculation, every strategy has underestimated them. We face an enemy we cannot comprehend fully. And yet, we must try." Carter, on the other hand, watched these developments with quiet satisfaction. Humans had survived impossible odds, shattered the Heliarch Empire's myth of invincibility, and begun to carve a new order in the stars. The galaxy's political landscape was shifting, and humans were at the center of it, feared, respected, and unstoppable. As the Dauntless prepared to jump to its next mission, Carter addressed his crew. "We've done more than survive. We've proven that the galaxy's greatest weapon is not its technology, but its arrogance. They thought we were weak. They were wrong. And every system that stands with us knows one truth: humans are not to be underestimated. Not now. Not ever." Somewhere in the darkness beyond the stars, Admiral Zorvak clenched his fists, vowing vengeance. Humanity had risen from the edge of obscurity to become the force that even the most powerful empire feared. And the tides of war had only just begun to rise. The galaxy trembled as news spread. The Heliarch Empire had called upon every allied species, mercenary fleet, and warlord within their reach. They were forming a strike force of unprecedented size, over 1,000 warships, many larger than the Dauntless and every human vessel combined. Their goal was simple: annihilate humanity before it became unstoppable. On Earth, now a central hub of human command, Captain Elias Carter studied the holographic projection of the Heliarch Coalition. Each ship, each formation, and every potential strategy was mapped and analyzed. But even as humans anticipated the enemy's moves, the scale of the assault was terrifying. "Even with everything we've prepared, this could wipe us out in hours," Mara Singh said, her fingers trembling slightly over the command console. Carter's gaze was steady. "Exactly. And that is why we win. Humanity thrives when the odds are impossible. We don't just fight to survive, we fight to outthink. Every assumption they make will be their undoing." Commander Juno Lee leaned over the table, tracing the path of the incoming fleet. "They're expecting a traditional engagement. Lines of ships, volleys of firepower. They'll focus on overwhelming our numbers, but that's where we strike. We make them believe they are winning, then we turn everything against them." The humans' first move was unconventional. Instead of engaging the massive fleet head-on, human intelligence deployed phantom signals and decoys, mimicking entire squadrons across multiple sectors. The Heliarch, seeing what appeared to be the bulk of human forces, dispatched heavy cruisers and dreadnoughts in pursuit. Meanwhile, the real human fleet, cloaked and smaller, moved to strike at the coalition's supply chain, critical fuel depots, ammunition stations, and command relay points. Within hours, the humans had crippled their enemy's infrastructure without a single ship being detected. On board Ecliptor, Admiral Zorvok's frustration boiled over. "Where are they? They cannot be everywhere at once. Focus. Find them. Destroy them." Grand Warlord Kretha's massive claws slammed the table. "It's as if they are ghosts. Every time we think we corner them, they vanish and we are left exposed." Zorvok clenched his teeth, realizing the truth. Humans weren't merely fighting, they were reshaping the battlefield itself, turning every expectation into chaos. The true test came at Orpheus Station, a massive neutral world critical to the coalition's logistics. Carter and his fleet arrived in orbit, hidden within the shadows of gas giants. Mara Singh sent a single message to the Heliarch command. "You think you have us trapped. You do not know humans. You will learn." The human assault began with precision strikes. Quantum torpedoes disabled orbital cannons, while rapid deployment fighters neutralized patrol ships. Human engineers hacked the station's systems, turning the coalition's defenses against their own ships. Chaos erupted as coalition vessels collided, systems overloaded, and command networks went dark. Admiral Zorvok's voice roared across the galaxy, "How can this be? They are puny. They are primitive. And yet, they destroy everything." The humans were relentless, but the Heliarch responded with devastating counterattacks. Plasma lances tore through human ships, gravity disruptors ripped entire squadrons into oblivion. The Dauntless itself was hit multiple times, sustaining critical damage. Amid the battle, a human pilot, Lieutenant Cale Torres, radioed in, "Captain, we're outnumbered 20-1. Shields are failing. We can't hold much longer." Carter's voice cut through, calm and resolute, "Then make them pay for every ship they take. Humans survive because we refuse to surrender. Fight smarter. Move faster. Think further. Every moment we endure is a lesson to them." In the midst of the chaos, Carter made a bold decision. Rather than retreat, he led the Dauntless on a daring maneuver, a direct strike at the heart of the Heliarch command fleet. Using improvised wormhole jumps and cloaked infiltration tactics, the Dauntless and a small escort penetrated the enemy lines and targeted the flagship Ecliptor. The ensuing confrontation was epic. Energy beams collided, shields faltered, and entire fleets watched helplessly as the humans approached their most powerful enemy. Carter issued precise orders, exploiting the Heliarch's arrogance. Focus on their engines. Disable their command relays. Make them see chaos before destruction. Within moments, the Dauntless unleashed a concentrated barrage that crippled the flagship. Explosions rocked Ecliptor, sending debris and shockwaves across the battlefield. Admiral Zorvok, stunned and enraged, watched helplessly as his command network collapsed. The coalition's fleets, leaderless and disorganized, were easy prey. Human ships struck with surgical precision, dismantling massive warships one by one. By the end of the battle, what had begun as a hopeless fight had transformed into an astonishing victory. Humans had defeated a force 10 times their size. The aftermath was profound. Across the quadrant, alien species witnessed the impossible. A single species, underestimated, undergunned, and outnumbered, had shattered the greatest empire and its allies. Humanity had proven that intelligence, adaptability, and willpower were mightier than size, technology, or numbers. Back on the Dauntless, Carter addressed his weary but triumphant crew. Remember this moment. Every species in the galaxy thought they could contain us. Every fleet assumed we were weak. They were wrong. Humans survive where others fail. Humans think where others obey. Humans adapt where others break. And this is only the beginning. Mara Singh, surveying the battlefield remnants, whispered, "They will never forget us now. Not ever." Carter nodded, his gaze fixed on the stars. Humanity had survived the apex of the galaxy's wrath. They had outwitted, outmaneuvered, and outlasted the greatest fleets ever assembled. Yet even as victory was celebrated, one thought lingered. The galaxy had now seen humanity for what it truly was. And once a species learned to fear human brilliance, there was no turning back. Somewhere, deep in the shadow of a distant system, Admiral Zorvok swore revenge. Humans are monsters. Every species underestimated them. But I will find a way. Humanity will pay. But for now, humans had proven an undeniable truth. The galaxy's greatest threat was not the largest fleet, nor the deadliest weapon, but the human mind itself. The galaxy was changing, and the shift was unmistakable. Across star systems, humans were no longer just survivors. They were a force, a symbol, a warning. Worlds once aligned with the Heliarch Empire reconsidered their loyalties. Neutral planets sought treaties, protection, or trade agreements. Everywhere, humans' reputation for intelligence, adaptability, and unstoppable ingenuity preceded them. Captain Elias Carter observed the quadrant from the Dauntless command bridge, eyes scanning star maps lit with the positions of human allies and potential threats. The victories at Cygnar Prime and Orpheus Station had made humans legends, but Carter knew that legends were fragile if not reinforced by strategy. "Mara, what do the intelligence reports show?" he asked. Mara Singh's eyes flickered across multiple holographic displays. "The Heliarch are in disarray. Their fleets are scattered, their allies are losing faith, and several systems we've helped now openly recognize humanity as a dominant power. But there are still factions loyal to Zorvok. He hasn't given up." Carter's jaw tightened. "Good. Let them come. The galaxy will learn the cost of underestimating humans." Human influence expanded not through conquest, but through strategy, diplomacy, and foresight. Ambassadors like Nyla Hart negotiated treaties, establishing the Galactic Human Accord, a coalition of systems united under the guidance of humanity's intelligence and ingenuity. Technology shared with caution strengthened allies. Star systems once fearful of humans began trusting them to maintain order in a galaxy previously dominated by war and chaos. At the same time, humans continued to innovate militarily. Engineers on Earth and aboard the Dauntless developed adaptive AI combat systems, starships capable of learning enemy tactics mid-battle, and quantum communication networks that made coordination across light years instantaneous. Even the Heliarch began to feel the weight of human advancement. Admiral Zorvok, confined to the ruins of his empire, sent desperate messages to remaining allies. Humanity is evolving faster than the galaxy can comprehend. Every engagement we lose, every system they influence, it is a failure of logic. They are not just intelligent, they are apex. Every species that underestimates them will fall. But Zorvok was not finished. He had retreated to the Outer Rim, a region of uncharted stars, where he amassed a secret fleet of experimental dreadnoughts and mercenary forces loyal only to him. His plan was audacious, a strike so powerful that it could annihilate the heart of human influence in a single blow. "Humanity believes itself untouchable," he hissed, staring at a hologram of the Dauntless and the Galactic Human Accord fleet. "They are clever. They are adaptable. But every mind has a limit. Every strategy has a flaw. And I will find it." The Heliarch strike force emerged from the shadows near Tyra Prime, a critical hub of human logistics. The humans had anticipated such an attack but knew that the scale of Zorvok's forces would push them to the brink. Carter addressed his council. "This is the test of humanity. Not our fleets. Not our technology. But our will, our creativity, and our ability to think where no one else can. If we survive this, the galaxy will know humanity is unbreakable." Mara Singh added, "They'll strike with overwhelming force. But we've studied every possible pattern, every possible tactic. They cannot anticipate the decisions we haven't made yet." The Battle of Tyra Prime began with staggering intensity. Zorvok's dreadnoughts unleashed energy lances that could cleave planets in half. Mercenary fleets surged like waves, seeking to crush human positions. Yet the humans were prepared, executing a strategy never seen before in galactic warfare. Using quantum displacement, human ships phased in and out of positions faster than enemy targeting systems could react. Cloaked squadrons disrupted command channels, causing confusion among the Allied fleets. Human engineers hacked enemy AI mid-battle, turning mercenary vessels against their own allies. Carter led a decisive strike personally aboard the Dauntless, targeting Zorvok's flagship. With precision, the human fleet funneled the Heliarch forces into a trap, a massive asteroid belt rigged with gravity mines, electromagnetic pulses and decoy signals. One by one, dreadnoughts and cruisers collided, were disabled, or destroyed in blinding flashes of fire. Amid the chaos, Zorvok's voice roared across the galaxy, How can a species so small command such destruction? Carter, calm and resolute, transmitted a single message. Humans survive where others fail. We think, adapt, and endure. Your arrogance was your undoing. The climax came when Carter faced Zorvok directly. The Dauntless emerged from a cloaked warp jump above Zorvok's flagship. Carter's voice cut through the comms, steady, commanding. Your empire underestimated us. Your allies faltered because they followed blindly. Your fleet, your strategy, your pride, none of it can overcome human ingenuity. Zorvok's face, twisted with fury, responded, You are monsters. No species should possess such cunning. You are unnatural. And yet, Carter replied, we are human. Adaptable, intelligent, unbroken. And today, you lose. With a final coordinated strike, the Dauntless fired a precision quantum torpedo that destroyed Zorvok's flagship, collapsing his fleet into chaos. The surviving Heliarch forces retreated, fractured and leaderless, leaving humanity's dominance unchallenged. The galaxy had witnessed the impossible. Humans, outnumbered and outgunned, had overcome an empire and its allies. Through strategy, diplomacy, ingenuity, and unbreakable will, they had achieved supremacy without succumbing to arrogance or fear. Carter addressed the entire fleet. The galaxy thought it could crush us, control us, or ignore us. They were wrong. Humans survive because we are more than strength or numbers. We are the mind that turns impossibility into victory. And the galaxy will never forget the day humanity rose. Somewhere in the stars, across the remains of shattered fleets, civilizations whispered the same truth. Never underestimate humans. Never. The galaxy had changed forever. Humanity was no longer a curiosity at the edge of the Milky Way, it was the standard by which all species measured intelligence, adaptability, and power. The remnants of the Heliarch Empire were scattered across the void, leaderless and fractured, while humans consolidated influence through the Galactic Human Accord, forging alliances and reshaping the political landscape of countless star systems. But even legends have enemies. Admiral Zorvok had survived the Battle of Tyra this prime, his flagship crippled but intact, hidden in a dark nebula at the edge of known space. His obsession with humanity had grown into something almost unnatural, a cold, calculated hatred. Every failure, every loss had only sharpened his resolve. They believed themselves untouchable, he whispered to the hologram of the Dauntless. But every apex species has a flaw. Every mind has a limit. Humanity will pay. Carter, aboard the Dauntless, knew it was only a matter of time before Zorvok regrouped. Humanity had survived every previous challenge because they adapted faster, thought smarter, and acted more decisively than anyone in the galaxy anticipated. But this, Zorvok's final gambit, would push them to their limits. The calm before the storm. For weeks, humans prepared. Ships were upgraded with the latest adaptive AI systems, fleets were positioned in layered defensive networks, and reconnaissance teams mapped every potential path of Zorvok's approach. Diplomats reinforced alliances across dozens of star systems, ensuring that humans would not face the coming storm alone. In the dauntless war room, Carter addressed his command council. We've faced impossible odds before. Outnumbered fleets, superior technology, coordinated coalitions. Each time we survive because we refuse to surrender, because we think differently, and because we adapt faster than any enemy can anticipate. Zorvok is dangerous. He's intelligent, ruthless, and desperate. But humanity, we are unstoppable. Remember that. Every plan we make, every maneuver we execute, will make the galaxy understand one truth: humans are apex. Mara Singh added, we've predicted his strategy based on every previous engagement. But he may do something completely unexpected. We have to be ready to improvise, instantly. Carter nodded. That's what makes us human. That's why we survive where others fail. The final battle in Nebula of Shadows. Zorvok emerged from the Nebula of Shadows, a dense field of ion storms and gravitational anomalies, with a fleet unlike anything the galaxy had ever seen. Every ship had been modified for maximum lethality, cloaking abilities enhanced, energy weapons intensified. This was his ultimate gambit, a strike so overwhelming that humanity could be erased before they could respond. The human fleet waited in orbit around Eos Prime, a strategically vital planet that served as both a fortress and a command hub. Carter issued orders with precision. Deploy the decoys. Activate the quantum cloaks. Lure them into the nebula's heart. Every maneuver is designed to turn their strength into weakness. Remember, numbers don't win wars. Strategy wins wars. Human ingenuity wins wars. As the first wave of Zorvok's dreadnoughts entered the nebula, the humans struck. Cloaked squadrons appeared behind enemy lines, disrupting communications and targeting command nodes. Gravity anomalies were exploited to pull the enemy ships into collisions, while adaptive AI-piloted vessels learned enemy maneuvers mid-battle, countering every attack with surgical precision. Zorvok's flagship, the Oblivion, moved to engage the Dauntless directly. Energy beams clashed in blinding displays, illuminating the nebula with fire and shockwaves. Carter and Zorvok exchanged messages across the void. Zorvok, you are clever, human. But cleverness alone cannot save you from annihilation. Carter, annihilation is your assumption, not our reality. Humans survive where others fail. We think. We adapt. We endure. That is why we win. The turning point. The battle reached a crescendo when Zorvok attempted a full-scale ramming maneuver with the Oblivion, intending to crush the Dauntless and end the war in one strike. Anticipating this, Carter initiated the Omega Protocol, a human innovation combining quantum displacement, AI-guided torpedoes, and synchronized wormhole jumps. The Dauntless phased through space, appearing simultaneously in multiple locations, striking critical points on the Oblivion. Gravity wells ripped through the enemy formation, and torpedoes detonated with pinpoint accuracy. Within minutes, the flagship exploded, sending shockwaves across the nebula of shadows and fracturing Zorvok's fleet. Every surviving Heliarch vessel retreated, leaderless and demoralized, as humans demonstrated their final, decisive superiority. The aftermath, humanity ascendant. With the Heliarch finally defeated, the galaxy began to reorganize. Planets once oppressed under Empire rule were liberated. Alien species, now aware of human brilliance, sought alliances and guidance. Humans had proven that their supremacy was not born of brute force, but of intelligence, adaptability, creativity, and unbreakable will. Captain Carter addressed the galaxy through a universal transmission. Humans were underestimated. They thought us weak, primitive, expendable. They were wrong. We survive because we think differently, because we adapt, because we endure. The galaxy has learned a truth it cannot ignore. Humans are apex. Not by strength alone, not by numbers, but by the mind, the courage, and the spirit of humanity. Today we do not conquer. Today we rise. Humanity is here. Humanity is unstoppable. Across countless worlds, humans celebrated, but with vigilance. They knew the galaxy was vast, full of challenges yet to come. But now, one undeniable fact remained: humanity had changed the course of the galaxy forever. Even in the shadows, whispers of fear spread. Species that had once mocked or ignored humans now knew a terrifying truth. A single human mind could outthink fleets, outmaneuver empires, and rewrite the rules of war itself. Somewhere, the scattered remnants of the Heliarch shivered. Humanity had survived the impossible. Humanity had conquered chaos. Humanity had become the apex species of the galaxy. And in every star, every fleet, and every world, one warning echoed for all eternity: never underestimate humans.